June 28, 2007 will forever go down in history as a day that Paige's family and friends will not forget. On this ordinary day, a young woman left her 3 children with her friend Carol Linder and set off early in the morning. Nothing foreshadowed trouble, and no one could imagine what would happen soon. Paige was a conscientious mother and always picked up the children on time or called them. Morning came, but Paige never returned for her children. Vigilant friends and relatives began trying to contact her, but to no avail. 8-year-old Jez, the eldest of the children, took the lead in the search for the missing woman. After she sent several messages to her mother's phone and received no response, she insisted on searching. Together with Carol, they went to the police station, where Jez reported that her mother had not returned for her. This call to the police was a key moment in the beginning of the police investigation and the search for Paige Bergfeld. With each passing hour, the anxiety of Paige's loved ones only increased. The public was shocked by this mysterious disappearance, and many were willing to do their best to help in the search for Paige. Thus began a large-scale public search operation to return this young woman to her children and loved ones. On the same day, the father of the missing woman, Frank Bergfeld, received an alarm call from a representative of the sheriff's department. The message was brief and shocking. His daughter is missing. It became clear to Frank that something serious had happened. He tried to contact Paige, but there was no response. In horror and despair, Frank called his eldest son Craig, who was on the other side of the country. Craig did not hesitate to buy a one-way ticket and arrived in the city, ready to help in the search for his sister. Family and loved ones have teamed up with police and volunteers to launch a massive search. People from different neighborhoods began searching for Paige, combing the neighborhood, checking every corner where they could find any trace of her whereabouts. Police began to scrutinize Paige's history with her loved ones to find out if they had anything to do with her disappearance. The authorities drew attention to Paige's relationship with her first husband, Howard Bigler. The story of their relationship began during high school. After graduating from high school, Paige enrolled at the University of Florida College of Medicine, where she met a young man named Howard Bigler. Their feelings turned out to be mutual, and they began dating. After successfully completing her medical degree, Paige returned to Colorado. She continued to live there with her family, but sometime later, in 1995, she and Howard Bigler got married. At first glance, the couple seemed like a happy couple. They had many common interests and views on life. However, there was one significant rift in their relationship that eventually led to a divorce. Paige dreamed of having a child and wanted a family, but Howard did not share her desires. The issue has become the cause of disputes and conversations in many cases. None of the attempts to find a compromise were successful, and in 1997 the couple decided to break up. Nevertheless, despite the divorce, their bond was strong, and the former spouses remained friends. Paige later married Rob Dixon, but their marriage also ended in divorce. After her divorce from Rob, Paige resumed communication with Howard. The missing woman's first husband claimed he was one of the last people to see Paige alive. On the 28th, they met in Eagle County, Colorado. It was related to personal matters. They spent Thursday together that day. Then the former spouses went to their cities. Howard confirmed that they continued to talk on the phone after the meeting. When Howard found out about Paige's disappearance, he immediately contacted the rescue service. In a conversation with the operator, he expressed his deep concern and belief that something terrible had happened to Paige. He noted that she would never leave her children without a good reason. The recording of the phone conversation was confirmed by cell tower data showing that on the day of Paige's disappearance, Howard was in the Denver, Colorado area, which is a few hours away from the place of her disappearance. This allowed the police to exclude Howard from the list of suspects. Police began to scrutinize Paige's relationship with her second husband, Rob Dixon, and quickly discovered many events that raised questions and required further investigation. It turned out that during their marriage, Paige had twice gone to the police to complain about Rob for harassment. After her divorce from her first husband, Paige got a job at a strip club in Denver, where she met Rob Dixon. The man was wealthy, having inherited a large fortune through the family business. Having fallen in love with each other, Paige and Rob did not hesitate to get married in 1998. The family settled in a luxurious house in Colorado, where Paige realized her dream of becoming a mother. A few years later, the couple already had 3 children, who became the most important thing in life for the young mother. The first years of marriage seemed happy. Paige and Rob plunged into the world of luxury, leading a well-off lifestyle. However, suddenly everything began to collapse, and the reason for this was the financial difficulties that Rob faced. Some of the family businesses were experiencing serious problems, and as a result, the economic situation in the family deteriorated so much that Rob had to file for bankruptcy. The financial collapse led to a deep family crisis. By 2004, family tensions had reached such an extent that Paige contacted the rescue service twice. The first time she reported that Rob had threatened to kill her and the children, but by the time the police arrived, she and Rob said they had resolved their problems on their own. A year later, a second incident occurred, which was completely different. Paige accused Rob of assault, claiming that he hit her while she was holding the youngest child in her arms. This time, Rob was arrested and charged with third-degree assault. He eventually pleaded guilty to 1 count of harassment, but the trial was overturned and Rob avoided jail time. The relationship between the couple deteriorated, and they decided to separate, after which Rob moved to Pennsylvania. Investigators questioned Rob in an attempt to establish his alibi for the day Paige disappeared. Rob claimed he was at home and couldn't hurt her. The investigators could not exclude his participation in the disappearance. Eventually, Rob joined the search and was very active in trying to find Paige. Investigators spared no effort to find any clues that would help solve this mysterious story and find the missing mother. A little more time later, a red Ford Focus belonging to the missing Paige was discovered. However, the place where the car was found and its condition raised many questions and serious suspicions. The car was in a remote area that Paige didn't usually visit. Moreover, he was completely engulfed in flames, which suggested that something terrible and strange had happened. One of the first steps was a thorough inspection of Paige's car. Based on the assumption that evidence may be found in the car that will help find the woman or at least understand what happened to her. Sergeant Weiler of the county sheriff's office said arson is often used to destroy potential evidence. However, the inspection of the vehicle provided the experts with very valuable information. The driver's seat was pushed back as far as possible, indicating that the last person driving the Ford was a tall man. Paige was short and couldn't reach the pedals from that distance. The missing woman's notebook was found in the trunk of the car, from which the sheets were torn from June 26 to June 29. The search for Paige became more intense by the hour. A few days after the discovery of the burning car, a bystander stopped on the highway southeast of the city due to problems with the wheel. His attention was attracted by a checkbook lying nearby, and he immediately reported it to the authorities. During the inspection of this section of the road, medical records, insurance cards, and other items belonging to Paige were found. Sergeant Weiler discovered that several sheets had been torn out of the checkbook, and things were scattered at a considerable distance from each other. However, the most significant was a business card found on the road. She became the key to reviewing the investigation. It turned out that Paige led a secret life that her family did not even know about. According to the business card, the woman worked as an escort under the pseudonym Carey. This discovery has cast doubt on all previous assumptions in the investigation into the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld. From that moment on, the police faced new circumstances that they did not even suspect. After the divorce, Paige realized that now she would have to work and earn as much as possible to provide for her children and meet their needs. She took drastic measures and started her own business selling children's clothes. At the same time, she taught dancing and sold kitchen utensils in the same company. Despite her busy schedule, Paige always found time for her children, attended PTA meetings, and was active in school groups. The new discovery of the police has completely changed the previous picture. It turned out that Paige led a top-secret life. She had a separate phone, which she used for calls related to her professional activities. This phone was the key to solving a mystery that turned out to be much more difficult than even Page's close friends and family could have imagined. The investigators' questions have only multiplied. Why did such a conscientious mother and successful businesswoman decide to lead a double life? What did this secret profession have to do with her disappearance? All these issues have become a priority in the investigation and have added a new mystery to the case. Using a mobile phone found in Page's car, detectives gained access to a list of contacts and calls made and received in the hours before the young woman disappeared. The last call from this phone was made on June 28th at approximately 2100 hours. As a result of the analysis of this information, 7 suspects were identified, and one of them turned out to be Lester Ralph Jones. Lester Jones' criminal record was of particular interest to investigators. He had a history of violence against a woman and kidnapping in his records. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for the latest incident. However, this was not the only thing that alerted the police. His car was white in color and looked very similar to the car that Page's friend Carol had seen. Carol shared important information with the investigators. She told about the incident when one day Page went to her car and saw another white car nearby, which blocked her entrance. Outraged, she got behind the wheel to turn around and drive away, but the cars collided, except that the unknown driver immediately fled the scene. With this information, investigators speculated that Lester might have been obsessed with Page and was following her. Further investigation revealed that Lester Jones had tried to arrange a meeting with Page for personal services the day before she disappeared. Lester was questioned and denied having any information about Page's disappearance. He provided fingerprints and DNA samples. However, many suspicious items were found in his house, including a disposable mobile phone, wigs for men, Viagra, a piece of paper with the phone number of an escort service, and lingerie of various sizes. The investigators' special attention was attracted by a disposable mobile phone. Analysis of the call records on Page's mobile phone showed that on the day of her disappearance, someone tried to contact her several times from an unregistered number. Lester denied during interrogation that he had a second mobile phone. This meant that he had lied to the police. Using the packaging found at Lester's home, police were able to establish that the phone had been bought at a supermarket on Northern Avenue. Video recordings from the store identified Lester as a customer. When he was shown the video, he refused to admit that it was him. As a result of all this, Lester Jones became the main suspect in Page's disappearance. With no concrete evidence of his guilt, the police continued to monitor him and tried to find Page's body in order to have enough evidence to bring charges. The case was suspended for several years, and all this time the family and friends of the young woman were perplexed by grief. No one knew what had happened to the young mother, and the search seemed hopeless. Over time, the hope that Page would be found alive faded. Everything changed in 2012 when a tourist accidentally stumbled upon human remains in a ravine among rocks and shrubs in Delta County. The find was discovered very close to the road where Page's personal belongings were found 5 years ago. The experts who arrived at the scene were almost sure that this was the body of a young mother. Experts conducted a DNA test, and the results confirmed that it was Page. She was found, but it was a terrible end to her story. The exact cause of death could not be determined due to the condition of the body, but it was discovered that Page had been hit several times, as several of her bones were broken, especially the bones of her face. As a result, it was established that she died from injuries sustained during the beating. This information added horror to the drama of the story. Page's body was underground, and due to years of soil erosion, it ended up on the surface. This may explain why she was not discovered earlier. The Lester Ralph Jones case stalled for several years after the discovery of Page's remains. In November 2014, he was charged with kidnapping, first-degree murder, and second-degree murder. However, the trial did not begin until July 2016 and lasted 22 days. Prosecutors alleged that Lester, who already had a history of violence against women, was upset that he was unable to meet with Paige after trying to arrange a meeting with her. The main witness for the prosecution was Lester's ex-wife, Lisa. She told how a man kidnapped her and threatened to kill her with a gun pointed at her in the late 1990s. Lisa said that Lester couldn't come to terms with her decision to break up with him. At one unfortunate moment, he attacked the couple, holding a weapon in his hands, and Lisa's partner was shot in the head. A month later, Lester threatened her again, saying that her end would be in the depths of the lake. However, the woman managed to escape and contacted the police, which led to Lester's arrest on charges of kidnapping and assault. Lester's defenders tried to convince him that the police had detained an innocent man and suggested that other Paige's clients might also have motives for committing a crime. But they were unable to provide convincing evidence linking others to the murder. Lester's current wife also appeared before the jury and stated that although he used escort services, she did not leave her husband because of her beliefs. However, she did not provide him with an alibi and recognized him on the video from the supermarket where Lester bought a disposable phone. On September 9, 2016, the jury could not reach a consensus and the first trial was declared invalid. However, the district attorney was convinced of Lester's guilt and was not going to give up. Over the next few days, he worked hard on the investigation and reviewed all the evidence. On November 21, 2016, after reviewing the evidence, the jury finally reached a verdict. Lester was found guilty of all charges in connection with Paige's death. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the right to parole. The defense appealed the verdict, but in June 2022, the Board of the Court of Appeal confirmed the verdict and Lester's guilt. The last farewell to Paige took place on April 28, 2012. Her obituary featured beautiful words describing her as a beautiful and radiant woman whose smile could match the sun. Her tragic loss has left a mark on the hearts of her family and friends. Her 3 children were orphaned and had to endure the loss of their mother, who had always been their support and inspiration. Paige's case attracted public attention and dragged on for many years, but still the persistence and tenacity of relatives and law enforcement eventually led to justice. What are your thoughts on this story? Please express your views, leave comments, subscribe, and like. We thank you for watching. Remember to take care of your own well-being and the well-being of your loved ones.